Callum, great to meet you. My name's Andrew. I'm actually asking people kind of some deep questions today, and it's questions about religion, considered sometimes to be a taboo topic in our culture. Okay. Do you have a religious background at all? Not at all.
No, a little bit.
All right. So do you have any view on what you think happens to us after we die?
Not really.
All right.
It's just, not really sure.
All right. I appreciate the honesty. Do you think, for instance, that there is any sort of God or creator of this world?
Well, it seems a little impossible that we just appeared, but also the thought of having that there was only one person that created everything is, also,
A challenge.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you think there's any way of, because obviously if there's a divine creator, we can't get out and tape measure and measure him, we can't weigh him on a set of scales.
Yeah.
How could we know if there was a creator?
I don't think you could ever know. I don't think you'd really be certain.
Could there be a way that it was the most logical explanation for what we see?
Yeah, that's possible.
Okay. Let me try and convince you. Here we go. Building over behind me there. Who
Yes.
built it?
I don't
Builder.
know. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Did you see the builder? Do you know who it is?
No.
But you know there was a builder.
Yes.
Why?
It didn't build itself.
Right. It didn't build itself. And when you look at that building, you say that is a complex structure. It's got a purpose. It's got elements of design. You just intuitively know it had a builder.
Yeah.
Cars driving past behind me over here. Where did the cars come from?
Factory?
Okay, they were made by a person in
Yeah.
a factory. Okay, did you ever see that person?
No.
Okay, but you know they existed.
Yes.
Why?
So I just saw the car.
You're right. The car itself is the proof that
Yeah.
someone must have designed it. The car is a complex structure. It has elements of design, and when we look at this, we can see what those elements were designed to do. Your hand. Just have a look at that for a second. Complex structure.
Yes.
Okay, very complex. In fact, if you get down to the cellular level and you get down to the DNA has 3 billion base pairs in the DNA. It's like the most massive computer code that you've ever seen. Okay? Immensely complex. Break it just a little bit, the whole thing fails. Is there a standard reason that someone designed that code?
Yeah.
Okay, and just to put that in perspective, even a single cell organism that only has 30,000 base pairs is still a massively complex structure. I would argue, I think it makes only sense that if we would look at a building or a car and assume that they were designed because they have structure and purpose, then at a cellular level we could argue that we were designed. That we are such a complex system, someone must have put us together. Now that doesn't tell us who, it just tells us that there must be a someone. What do you think of that argument?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. What could, if that was the case, what could you know about that designer simply by looking at what they've built? Have to be intelligent, right?
Yeah.
If they can put together you and I at the DNA level, have to be powerful, have to be creative, have to be able to make decisions. That is, they have a volitional nature, a will. Start to hit a bit of a wall there after that. You can sort of figure out other things, but not much more than that. So the only way we could know anything more about who that creator is if that creator chose to reveal themselves to the world in some way. And of course we have all sorts of books that claim to be divine revelation. We have the Bible, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, the Book of Mormon, so on, so on, so on. The question is, do any of them actually have divine revelation, or are they all man-made books? You read any of them? Bits of any of them?
A little bit.
All right. What do you know about Christianity?
Not a lot.
Not a lot. If I said, could you summarise what you've understood the main message of Christianity to be, what would you say was the summary?
God put two people on earth.
Okay.
And let them,
Yep. Okay, so God made the world and Adam and Eve, and they procreated and made lots and lots more people. What else do you know?
God had not a direct son, but a son,
Yeah.
supposedly.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so we're talking about Jesus.
Yeah.
And of course we have two major religious holidays connected to Jesus, Christmas and Easter. They're hijacked by our culture in many ways, but ultimately they were a religious holiday. And one of them, Christmas celebrates the birth of Jesus.
Yes.
Easter, we celebrate the fact that Jesus died and then rose again. So that would be something centrally connected to the message of Christianity. Okay? Why did Jesus die? Any idea? Right, I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah.
Let me summarise it for you, and I think at least you'll walk away from this conversation and you go, well, now at least I know what the main message of Christianity is, and at least that will put you in a position to say, well, now I have a better understanding of what Christians believe and why, and I'll be in a better position to make an informed decision. Christianity says that there's a God who made us, and that he gave us rules to follow, a set of rules that we see represented in something called the Ten Commandments. You heard of those?
Yeah.
Do you know any of them?
No.
There's rules like, you shall not lie, you shall not steal, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not commit murder. How well have we kept them?
But not very well.
How many lies have you told in your whole life?
A few.
A few. And
A
how
few.
old are you?
17.
17. In your 17 years, you've told a few lies. Okay, I'm more than double your age. I guarantee you I've told a lot more than a few. So if you tell lies and I tell lies, what would you call us? What's the term for that?
Sinners?
Well, more specifically,
Yeah.
we'd be liars,
Yeah,
right?
liars, yeah.
So you and I and everyone else out here, we'd be liars.
Yes.
What about 8 commandments says you shall not steal? Have you ever taken something that didn't belong to you?
No.
Have you got siblings?
Yes.
You ever take something from your siblings without asking?
No.
Okay. You ever take...
I'm scared of my brother.
What about download music, games, movies off the internet you didn't pay money for?
No.
All right. Okay. Take a pencil off someone else's desk at school.
Ask.
Ask. The old borrowing without asking is theft. I mean, most of us at some stage have taken something that didn't belong to us. Even as little kids, we might have done that. Which, if we've done that, that would make us liars and thieves. Now, I'm guessing at 17 years old, you've never murdered anyone.
No.
That's a relief to hear. I'm glad to hear that. God ups the ante. He raises the standard. He says, not just your actions, but the intentions of our hearts and thoughts. And he says, if we hate someone in God's sight, we're guilty of committing murder in our hearts. Have you ever hated anyone, Callum?
No.
Ever been so just upset and talked with someone that you've sort of blown your stack? Sort of upset?
Not really.
I mean, you're not quite old enough. I'm guessing
Yeah,
you're
no.
not quite old enough to be driving consistently yet, but eventually
No.
someone cuts us off in traffic and kind of wave the arms and gesture and maybe say some choice words. That reaction, God says, is us committing murder in the heart. At 17 years old, I'm guessing that the hormones kicked in at some point, right?
Well.
So Jesus said it's not. He says, you've heard it said of old, you shall not commit adultery. So God demands sexual purity of us. But he says, if we look with lust, we commit adultery in our hearts. And if we even see someone walking past and we think somewhat inappropriate thoughts about them, we're violating God's standard. I'm guessing both you and I have broken that commandment plenty of times, right?
Well.
All right. What about disobeying your parents or arguing back?
Yeah, done that.
Okay, so that's the 5th commandment. Have you ever misused God's name? Used his name in a way that failed to give it sort of honour and respect. So even saying OMG, you know, if let's face it, if we're not praying at that point, then that's using his name in a low way. So that'd make us something called blasphemy. By that standard, that'd leave us as lawbreakers, right? Guilty of lying, and stealing, and lusting, and hating, and all these sort of things, disobeying our parents. If God is a God of justice, what should he do with guys like us? Should he reward us or punish us?
Punish.
Right, it makes logical sense. We don't like the idea very much,
Yeah.
but it makes sense. Because if a judge fails to punish a criminal, they'd be a wicked judge. They'd be an unjust judge. If God failed to punish us for our crimes, he would be like a judge in a courtroom who lets a murderer go free. If God is by nature good, he must also be just. So that would leave you and I in a lot of trouble, right? When the Bible talks about heaven and hell, it certainly doesn't leave us going to heaven. It would leave us headed for hell. That's bad news.
Yeah.
So on that basis, in fact, how could anyone possibly go to heaven? Do you know anyone who's kept those commandments?
No.
Right, so it would be right and fair for God to send every one of us to hell. God did something though, so that he wouldn't have to send people like you and I to hell. Any idea what he did? Okay, let's give you another analogy, okay? Let's imagine today, before we started chatting,
Yes.
you broke the law really badly. And we're sitting here chatting and the police come running up and they see you and they recognise you and they say, oh, there's that guy we've been looking for, and the gun comes out and force you to the ground, handcuffs go on, and they take you to the judge. The judge says, Callum, for your crime, $1 million fine. Do you happen to have $1 million?
No.
All right, so it's off to jail with you.
Yeah.
Young man, you're off to jail. But then imagine something remarkable happens. The judge takes off his wig, puts down that little hammer, comes down off the judge's bench and says, Callum, you broke the law. You're guilty. There's no question. And this $1 million fine is the right and fair punishment for what you did that's wrong. It's that severe. He says, I know you can't pay, but because I'm a good judge, I cannot simply ignore the thing that you've done that's wrong. So he pulls out his checkbook and he writes a check, $1 million, and he pays your fine. As far as the law is concerned, your fine is now paid, right? You could leave the courtroom not because you're innocent, not because you're a good guy, but because you're a criminal, but the fine has been paid by someone else. When it comes to our eternal judgment, God does something to rescue us. Someone pays the penalty we deserved. God himself entered our world 2,000 years ago. God made himself a body and came and dwelled among us. That's who Jesus was. He was God living in this world. He performed miracles to prove that he was God. And then he died on the cross. And it wasn't just the suffering of the cross, which is about as awful as you can get.
Yeah.
The Bible says that Jesus essentially bore our sin. Our sin, our crimes, our punishment that should have fallen upon us fell upon Jesus on that cross. But it's on that cross, we committed the crimes, Jesus took our punishment so that we could be forgiven. It's not forgiven because the judge just turns a blind eye to what we've done. It's forgiveness because someone else has paid the penalty we deserve. Guys like you and I can go to heaven, not because we're good guys, but because we're really, really, really wicked guys, but someone took the punishment that we deserved. The Bible says that Jesus died to rescue guys like you and me. Of course, the crucial question is, how do we receive that forgiveness? The Bible says it's about what we're trusting. Okay? Most people want to trust the idea that if they simply live good enough, maybe their good works will outweigh their bad. But that's not how justice works, is it?
No.
Okay, justice, when you turn up in a courtroom of guilty of a crime, the judge doesn't look at how many good things you've done and see if it outweighs it. You know, the punishment is on the other side of the scales from our bad works. We need to trust in something that deals with our bad works, deals with the justice issue. Good works can't erase it, so no number of good things we can do, no number of religious labels or religious works can erase the bad things that we've done. The only thing that can erase our bad works, that can deal rightly with our justice, is the fact that God did something to rescue us. Jesus died on the cross to rescue guys like you and me. We need to trust the promise that he died for us to rescue us, instead of trusting that somehow we can balance the scales ourselves. The Bible says if we will trust in what Jesus did, we are fully forgiven. You and I, we will die, and depending on what we're trusting in, we will be forgiven if we're trusting in Jesus. We will not be forgiven if we're trusting in anything else. We would have to then bear the consequence for our own sins in a place called hell. The Bible says that we have to turn away from our rejection of God and instead acknowledge that he is the one who deserves to call the shots in our life. That's what the Bible says. That you and I are sinners, we've broken God's rules, he should punish us, but instead he will forgive us because of Jesus if we turn away from our rebellion and trust in him instead. If that's true, and you died tonight, where would you be going?
Hell.
Hell. Sobering thought, right? As a young man, you know, God willing, you've got a whole life ahead of you, and you're going to get nice and old and grey and wrinkly, but it doesn't guarantee that, does it? We should figure these things out. These are hard questions for a young man, but you're a young man now, you don't get to kind of plead ignorance anymore. You get to now be accountable for yourself. You have to make a decision about whether or not this stuff's true and whether or not you're going to turn your life around and change it accordingly. It's not about becoming good and trying to fix your own life and cancel out your own sins. You can't do that. It's about acknowledging that someone else died to rescue you. That's Christianity. Heard much of that before?
No, not really.
New information.
Yeah.
Well, now you're a little bit more informed than you were before. Now that still doesn't answer the question of whether that religion's true or not. But I'm going to let you do some of that research for yourself. I reckon I've got good answers for a whole lot of that. There's probably more time than we can manage here today.